The GFL has officially announced that the rematch between Luke Rockhold and Chris Weidman is set to take place, with the fight date yet to be determined. The two first fought in 2015, with Rockhold winning by TKO in the 4th round, claiming Weidman's undefeated record and middleweight title in the process. Following his loss to Rockhold, Weidman went on to compete in the UFC 10 more times, winning only 3 of those bouts. Meanwhile, Rockhold has only won 1 out of his last 5 UFC fights. He recently suffered a TKO loss to Mike Perry in a bare-knuckle fight, losing teeth in the process. Luke also recently competed in karate combat, where he scored a 3rd-round knockout over Joe Schilling. Who do you guys got in this rematch between Rockhold and Weidman? Post your predictions in the comments. Gilbert Burns and Renato Moicano have criticized Dean Thomas for being disrespectful towards Sean Strickland. Following Sean's loss to Dricus Du Plessis, Dean was notably harsh, questioning Sean's to-the-death mentality before the fight and stating that Sean is not that guy. Speaking to Ariel Helwani, Dean said, "He's not that guy. People think that I'm being mean. I'm not being mean. I'm not that guy. Not many people are that guy. Dricus Du Plessis is that guy, but Strickland is not. He might have been there a couple of times in his career or whatever, but that's not who he is now. We've seen it his last couple of fights. He's just not willing to go in and be the dog that he told us he was." On the Show Me the Money podcast, Gilbert and Renato called Dean's remarks disrespectful, particularly given his background as a former fighter.
I think that's bad to say.
I don't like
because
that
the guy was a former champion, like you or not, like him or not.
No, and he went toe to toe.
No, he beat Adesanya.
Yeah, and he went forward. I was there in Sydney, and I was.
He went on the Alex Pereira fight. He was ready to fight.
I don't. I think that's very disrespectful. Especially to a former fighter, to say that from an actual fighter.
You guys are starting a beef with Dean Thomas.
I'm cool with Dean Thomas, but I just don't agree with what he said. I think I'm very respectful, but I think he's a real fighter. So sometimes the fight is complicated. Sometimes you don't get the rhythm. Sometimes it's not your day. And to be honest, Dricus, we talk about that a couple times. He's so awkward. It's hard to get it going with the guy that hits you so hard from freaking different angles. Crazy defense is hard, right?
Let's talk about that, because that was funny, because I remember Anderson Silva on his prime. That division, I don't know if he's good or not, but to watch that man, people gonna talk trash to me because I just lost, right, in the 1st round. But to me, that was not like a championship fight. You know what I mean? Because they were so.
Which fight?
Dricus
and Sean.
Okay.
That was like, I was watching that and say, man, this is look like amateur kickboxing, you know what I mean? That was not, I don't know, man. That doesn't look like a championship fight.
I know what you're saying, but bro, Dricus has a freaking heart. I respect Dricus so much, especially after what he said. I'm just kidding.
Sean Strickland has issued a response to the recent remarks made by his coach Eric Nicksick. Following Sean's loss to Dricus Du Plessis, Nicksick appeared on the Ariel Helwani show, where he voiced his disappointment in Sean's performance. He said that he was uninspired by Sean's performance and added that Sean needs to reevaluate his commitment to MMA, stating his desire to coach world champions rather than fighters who are only motivated by financial gain. In response, Sean posted a lengthy video on social media, criticizing Nicksick for sharing these comments publicly instead of discussing them privately, labeling him as an influencer. Despite his frustration, Sean confirmed that they will remain friends, but Nicksick will no longer be a part of his corner for future fights.
Alright guys, keep tagging me about this whole Eric thing, and goddamn it, because I like Eric. He's a friend of mine, and he's going to continue to be a friend of mine. Will he probably be in my corner? Probably not. We have so many great guys at Extreme, Nate, Ray Cepho. We have so many savages that I would love to corner me. But man, that entire fight camp was just a struggle. Like, it was a struggle. And guys, we all have excuses as to why we didn't win or why we won and we shouldn't have won. We all have excuses, and they don't matter. The only reason why I'm making this video is because Eric had to go do a podcast and become an influencer. So now I gotta alright, kind of explain myself. Opportunity. And not just with fighting. Opportunity never comes when it's supposed to. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is, what the situation is. You will never wake up and say, no, today is the perfect day for opportunity. It will come at the worst time. It will come at the worst time. And how many times it comes and you raise your hand and you say, you know what, I'm ready. A lot of times you fail. A lot of the times you fail. But a lot of times you don't fail. And it's like, you must say yes. this is not an excuse, but that entire camp was just a struggle of I'm good, knowing you're not good. I was in Colombia like 8 weeks out, 7 weeks out, and getting stem cells on a broken bone. Again, bone healed fine, not an excuse. It just kind of weighs in the back of your head. I was training with that Ritter guy, the submission guy, and he hit me with a whizzer. It was already broken. And dude, I thought my arm snapped. It's like, I gotta go to Colombia, like this is But all camp, this is just in the back of your head, and like, you just keep telling yourself, I'm good. And I think this is just what all men do. Like, all men do this. Like, you look in the mirror and like, even though you know you're not good, you're like, I'm good, dude. You're a man. You sack up. You know, you guys, I don't fight to put belts on the wall. I don't fight because, you know, Eric wants to go do a fancy podcast. That's not why I fight. I broke my nose like 3 times in that round, and every single time I didn't quit. I didn't go sit on the stool and say, hey, my nose is broken, I can't fight. I adjusted every time. And I thought, you know, man, maybe I'll get lucky, maybe I won't. But at the end of the day, dude, we all have a story, and no one gives a I'm grateful for my life. I love my job. I love my fans. I support you guys just as much as you support me. Back in the gym, sack up, and on to the next.
Oleksandr Usyk has responded to Alex Pereira's recent comments about aiming to become a 3-sport world champion. Alex, who has held both the middleweight and light heavyweight titles in both Glory Kickboxing and the UFC, expressed his desire to transition to boxing and challenge Usyk for the heavyweight title. Usyk has now responded, saying that he is also interested in facing Pereira in the ring. Speaking to TNT Sports, Usyk said first is who wins this next fight on February 22nd. Next, maybe a show fight with Alex Pereira. Maybe. Why not? Alex wants to. Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen defend Sean Strickland from the incredible amount of backlash he has received over his performance at UFC 312. A significant portion of the MMA community has criticized Sean for claiming that he would fight Dricus Du Plessis to the death, yet not reflecting that aggressive mindset during the fight itself. DC, in defense of Sean, explained that sometimes plans don't go as expected, and not every fight plays out the way a fighter envisions. DC said people are kind of piling on this guy. It's kind of crazy how much people are piling on, when sure he lost, but sometimes you get beat. You know what's crazy? I get it. People can say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Dude, sometimes it just doesn't work. Your intention is to go out there and die. Then some guy kicks your butt to the point you're like, man, I might actually have to die fighting this dude. And you're like, I don't want to do that. You have the right to pivot and turn. Chael Sonnen also voiced his confusion regarding the significant backlash Sean Strickland has faced. He expressed empathy for Sean, reflecting on his own experience with the intense pain of a broken nose during a fight. Chael stated that despite the criticism, he felt a sense of pride for Sean. Chael said, yeah, why so much hate? Did he do bad? I was proud of his effort. Having your nose broken, it hurts really bad. Breaking a finger or breaking a nose, 2 small things, but I'll just tell you, the pain is really immense. And to watch Sean reset it and stay in the fight, the math was already against him with the broken nose. He was not going to win that fight. He did not have the power. He was not going to find the guy, and the math was against him. So he can stay out there for another 12 minutes taking an whooping because it was honorable, or he could quit. He chose to stay in there and take an whooping. Michael Bisping and Paul Felder believe that Sean Strickland may never fight for a title again. Following his narrow split decision loss to Dricus Du Plessis in their first fight, they felt that Sean should have made adjustments and added more tools to his game for the rematch. However, Sean was then dominated by Dricus in their second bout, and both Bisping and Felder are now doubtful that Sean will ever have another shot at the belt.
You don't have to fight to the death. You don't have to be that fighter to be a very talented fighter and to be a champion in the UFC. But sure as shit, if you're gonna say all that stuff and you're gonna try to piss people off and then you don't adjust and then fight on the fly like that. Dom's right. He's tough as shit. There's no doubt about that. His nose was shattered off the side of his face and he tried to set it back. He hung in there and took a lot of big shots. But for me as a fan, and a fan of his coach that's sitting on the couch here on Saturday here on the East Coast while you guys were down there in Sydney. I was here with a couple of buddies like scratching my head. Like, what do you, I know you're better than this. I know you know how to wrestle. I know you know how to do something other than just throw teeps and jabs, man. He never opened up again. And now that might have been the last shot at ever having that belt.
Well, it certainly is in the near future. It's just a given. You've had 2 title fights out of your last 3. They're really hard to come by. You've been beaten by the same guy twice now. And that one, there's no discussion. It was a clear-cut decision for Dricus.
Kamaru Usman has singled out middleweight fighter Nassourdine Imavov as having the best chance of dethroning Dricus Du Plessis. Usman believes that Imavov, who recently knocked out Israel Adesanya, has a strong chance of defeating Dricus on the feet, despite Imavov's unanimous decision loss to Sean Strickland in 2023.
For him, what's next for DDP? I would say Khamzat. From what I saw yesterday, there's still a big question mark on potentially two guys that I think have a great shot at maybe dethroning a guy like DDP. I do think if he fought a guy like Nassourdine Imavov the way that he fought Sean Strickland last night, I don't like that fight for DDP. When you just think about it, when you primarily stand up with, we saw how the stand-up was with Israel. When you primarily just stand up with Nassourdine Imavov, I just, man, he might be the sharper guy besides Israel Adesanya right now with the striking in that division. So, I mean, you've got Nassourdine Imavov, you've got Israel, and you've got, sharp hands. I would have to go also with Brandon Allen's really, really good hands. So I think definitely I want to see those 2 fights first. Khamzat Chimaev, potentially Nassourdine Imavov, then potentially move up. Because at that point, yes, you can say I've gone through that top 5 in that division. Yeah, I deserve to move up. So it makes sense. But if it does move up, Henry, like you were saying, I don't know if I favor him against Alex Pereira. That's blasphemy.
Colby Covington continues to push for a fight with Dustin Poirier, despite Dustin's consistent refusal to entertain the matchup over the years. Dustin has made it clear that he would never fight Colby in the octagon, claiming the situation would escalate to a point where he would end up getting arrested.
No, I'll never fight Colby in an octagon where there's finances on the line. If I fight Colby, we're both going to jail. I'm going to jail. I'm not going to fight him in the octagon. He's not making money off of my career and what I've done. This is something different, you know. You will never see me fight Colby Covington in the UFC.
At the moment, Dustin Poirier is working with the UFC to schedule his final fight, which he says will take place this year in New Orleans. During one of his recent live streams on Twitch, Colby says he would gladly be Dustin's retirement fight.
Angel Bands, I would love if it was Dustin versus Colby. You know I want that fight more than anybody in the world. He's the one that got me kicked out of that gym. He's the one that, oh, Colby's such a meanie head. He said such mean words. But, you know, I treat everybody with respect and class. Unlike him, he treats people like he walks all over them. Fans I've seen come up to him in the gym, hey, can I get a picture? No, he just pats him away. He acts like he's too big for people and too good. And he has a big ego, so I would love to smash that ego. But it's okay, if he wants to go into retirement without fighting me, he's my forever, for life. I own that soul.
Ilia Topuria may have leaked that the UFC is working on a super fight between him and Islam Makhachev. Ilia would be moving up from featherweight to lightweight to challenge Islam for a second title. Earlier today, Islam claimed that Dana White had something special prepared for his next fight. However, he said he could not announce it. Speaking to Match TV, Islam said, "I can't announce it yet, but there's an offer that we need to sit down with the team and think about, because there are options. We need to decide together what to do. There is an option in my weight class, and there is an offer from the UFC, but let's wait for now." Ilia Topuria made an appearance on the Full Send podcast today, and when questioned about the potential fight with Islam, he said the UFC is in fact working on it. Ilia said, "I really believe I can beat the current champion, Islam. I like to fight with people that the fans think it's going to be very competitive. With Islam, I'm going to have that." Ilia was then asked, "Why do you think the UFC doesn't want to make it happen?" Ilia continued, "I don't think that they don't want to make it happen. It's in the works. They are trying to figure out some things. He's going to have a hard time with me. And something he knows, and we all know, is the only thing I need is one punch. At some point, I will connect that punch. Everything will depend on what God will decide. If he wants to send Islam to sleep or not, who knows that? I know that." And that's going to wrap it up for the news. Thanks for watching. For daily MMA news and content, subscribe to Full Mount MMA and click the bell icon to be notified when we post videos. Here are the 3 top comments from last video. The first one says, "I legitimately skip every single section where Bilal, Usman, or Henry talk." The second one's from More Core Division. It says, "Eric throwing Sean under the short bus is hilarious." And the final one says, "Bilal needs to talk less and defend the title." Those were the 3 top comments from last video. If you want to be featured in the next one, all you have to do is comment down below. And if you missed yesterday's news, click the video on screen right now to get caught up.